In 2003, a sample of water from a cooling tower in England gave us something that should not exist. Scientists looked through their microscopes and found a virus so large they first thought it was a bacterium. Its genome was bigger than some bacteria, more complex than anything a virus had a right to be, and it contained genes for protein translation, a process viruses were never supposed to have. They named it Mimivirus, short for mimicking microbe. And when researchers sequenced it, they found something stranger. Over 90% of its genes matched nothing else in the known tree of life. It was as if a book had been written in a language no one on Earth had ever spoken. That discovery cracked open a door. If viruses can carry genetic blueprints that have no terrestrial relatives, if they can break rules we thought were fundamental, if they can appear suddenly in the fossil record without ancestors, then we have to ask the question that sounds like science fiction, but is now being whispered in labs from Tokyo to Cambridge. What if viruses did not start here? What if they are alien? I want you to sit with that for a second. Because everything you think you know about viruses is probably wrong. We were taught they are tiny parasites, fragments of rogue DNA, evolutionary hitchhikers. But the more we learn, the less they fit. They outnumber every other biological entity on Earth by a factor of 10. If you lined up all the viruses on the planet, the line would stretch for 100 million light-years. They drive evolution, move genes between species, and make up at least 8% of your own DNA. You are, in a very literal sense, part virus. And we have no idea where the first one came from. There are three main theories in virology about their origin. The first says viruses devolved from cells, that they were once free-living organisms that shed genes until only parasitism remained. The second says they escaped from cells, that they are rogue bits of genetic material that learned to go mobile. The third says they came first, that viruses predate cellular life and helped build it. All three theories have holes. All three fail to explain the giant viruses, the ones with genes for metabolism, with their own immune systems, with complexity that rivals simple cells. All three struggle with the fact that viruses do not fit neatly into the tree of life. They have no ribosomes, no common ancestor, no shared set of genes that links them all together. It is like trying to trace the origin of a cloud by looking at rocks. So we start over. We start at the beginning. 4 billion years ago, Earth was a different world. No oxygen, no ozone, a surface bombarded by ultraviolet radiation and meteorites. The late heavy bombardment was raining material down from space. Comets, asteroids, interplanetary dust. And inside that material, we now know, were the building blocks of life. Amino acids have been found on meteorites. Nucleobases, the letters of DNA and RNA, have been detected in carbon-rich asteroids. In 2023, samples from asteroid Ryugu returned by the Hayabusa 2 mission contained uracil, one of the core components of RNA. Panspermia is the idea that life, or at least its precursors, did not start on Earth. It arrived. And if the ingredients for RNA can survive space and re-entry, then more complex structures might too. Which brings us to the strangest part of virus biology, their architecture. Bacteriophages, the viruses that infect bacteria, look like lunar landers. They have geometric heads called capsids, usually icosahedral, a shape that is incredibly efficient for enclosing volume with minimal material. They have tails, fibers, base plates. They dock, puncture, and inject their genome with mechanical precision. No other living thing builds itself this way. Cells are messy, membranes, and fluid and organelles. Viruses are crystals. They self-assemble. They can be taken apart, put in a test tube, and they will rebuild themselves without guidance. In 2002, scientists at SUNY Stony Brook synthesized poliovirus from scratch using mail-order DNA and a chemical recipe. No cells needed. They built it like a machine. Because in many ways, that is what a virus is. And machines imply design. Not intelligent design in the creationist sense. But selection for functions so extreme it stops looking biological. Viruses operate at the edge of chemistry and code. Their genomes are compressed, overlapping, efficient in ways that look engineered. Some use circular DNA. Some use RNA. Some use single-stranded DNA that they convert to double-stranded inside the host. Some, like HIV, carry their own reverse transcriptase, an enzyme that rewrites RNA back into DNA, reversing the central dogma of molecular biology. Why would evolution produce that, unless evolution was not limited to one planet? Let us talk about size. For a century, we thought all viruses were tiny, smaller than the wavelength of light, invisible until the electron microscope. Then Mimivirus showed up, 750 nanometers across, visible with a regular light microscope. Then Megavirus. Then Pandoravirus, with a genome of 2.5 million base pairs, bigger than some bacteria, with 93% of its genes having no known counterpart. Then, in 2014, we found Pithovirus in 30,000-year-old Siberian permafrost. It was still viable. It woke up after 30 millennia and started infecting amoebas again. Its structure was unlike anything we had seen. Its genome was different from Mimivirus, different from Pandoravirus. Each new giant virus we find is not a cousin of the last. It is a new phylum, a new branch of something we cannot map. It is like discovering a new continent every time you dig, but each continent has its own animals, its own trees, its own physics. That is not how evolution works on Earth. When we find a new mammal, it shares genes with other mammals. It fits. Giant viruses do not fit. They suggest multiple origins. Or one origin that was not here. Fred Hoyle, the astronomer who coined the term Big Bang, spent his later years arguing for panspermia. He and Chandra Wickramasinghe proposed that space is filled with bacteria and viruses, that comets seed planets, and that evolution is driven by waves of new viral genes arriving from space. Mainstream science rejected it. Too radical. Too untestable. But then we started finding extremophiles, organisms that live in nuclear reactors, in boiling acid, in Antarctic ice. We found bacteria in the upper atmosphere, at 41 kilometers up, where the air is thin and the temperature is minus 80 degrees Celsius. In 2001, Indian scientists launched a balloon and collected live cells from the stratosphere. Some of those cells were unlike anything in the standard databases. If bacteria can survive up there, viruses absolutely can. They are smaller, hardier, and many can encase themselves in protein shells that resist radiation. Studies on the International Space Station showed that bacteriophages remain infectious after months of exposure to space vacuum and solar UV. So the mechanism exists. Viruses can travel. The question is, did they? Let us look at the fossil record. Not of bones, but of DNA. Your genome is a graveyard. Endogenous retroviruses, or ERVs, are ancient viruses that infected our ancestors and got stuck. They inserted their code into sperm or egg cells and became permanent. Today, 8% of the human genome is viral. Some of those ERVs are critical. The gene that lets the placenta form in mammals, syncytin, comes from a virus. Without a viral infection millions of years ago, you and I do not exist. Those insertions are not random. They cluster around specific moments in evolutionary history. Bursts of viral integration match bursts of speciation. It is as if new code arrived and life changed. In 2018, a team studying octopus genomes found something odd. Octopuses are absurdly complex. They have large brains, camera eyes, and RNA editing capabilities that let them recode their own neural proteins on the fly. Their genome is huge and full of transposons, jumping genes that look suspiciously viral. Two of the researchers, including a well-known astrobiologist, published a paper suggesting that octopuses might represent an alien contribution, that cryopreserved squid or octopus eggs arrived via cometary impact 275 million years ago. The paper was controversial. Most biologists dismissed it. But the core observation remains. Cephalopods underwent a massive evolutionary leap, and their genome looks like it was hit by something. Viruses move genes. They are nature's hackers. Bacteria swap genes using viruses in a process called transduction. It is how antibiotic resistance spreads. It is how bacteria pick up new abilities overnight. If viruses are raining down from space, they are not just passengers. They are editors. Now let us talk about infection. When a virus enters your body, it does not just kill cells. It reprograms them. It injects its genome and turns your cellular machinery into a factory for making more virus. Some viruses are lytic, they burst the cell. Others are lysogenic, they hide, integrating into your DNA and waiting. HIV can hide for years. Herpes hides in nerves for a lifetime. This is not behavior we see elsewhere in biology. Predators eat prey. Parasites feed off hosts. Viruses hijack the operating system. Computer viruses were named after biological viruses for a reason. The analogy holds. Both are code. Both need a host system to run. Both can lie dormant, replicate, and spread. And both can carry payloads. In 2012, researchers created H5N1 bird flu strains in the lab that could transmit between mammals. They did it by forcing the virus through ferrets and selecting for airborne transmission. The result was a virus with a handful of mutations that made it potentially pandemic. The work was so dangerous that the US government paused gain-of-function research. Because viruses are programmable. And if we can program them, nature can. Or something else can. The idea of directed panspermia says life was deliberately sent to Earth. Proposed by Francis Crick, co-discoverer of DNA, the theory suggests an advanced civilization seeded planets with microbes. It sounds absurd until you realize we are about to do it ourselves. NASA's planetary protection protocols exist because we know we could contaminate Mars with Earth bacteria. SpaceX, Blue Origin, and other agencies plan to send life beyond Earth. We will be the aliens. So if viruses are alien, who sent them? Maybe no one. Maybe they are the natural byproduct of RNA world chemistry, forming in comets, ejected by impacts, and drifting between stars. The galaxy is 13.6 billion years old. Earth is 4.5 billion. There was time for life to start elsewhere, build viruses, and scatter them. In 1996, NASA announced they had found signs of fossilized bacteria in a Martian meteorite, ALH 84001. The claim is still debated. But the meteorite is real, it came from Mars, and it landed in Antarctica 13,000 years ago. If rocks can travel between planets, so can microbes. And if microbes can, viruses definitely can. There is another clue, the virusphere. Every liter of seawater contains 10 billion viruses. Soil, air, your skin, your gut, all packed with viruses. Most of them are bacteriophages, and most of them have never been characterized. We call it viral dark matter. We can sequence their DNA, but the genes match nothing we know. It is like pulling books from a library where 90% of the titles are in an unknown language. Some researchers think this dark matter represents the deep evolutionary history of viruses, a history that may extend off Earth. Because the diversity is too high. Viruses evolve fast, but not that fast. To get this much variation, they would need to be older than Earth itself. In 2020, a study of viral evolution rates suggested that some bacteriophage lineages diverged over 1 billion years ago. But Earth was barely cool then. Where were they evolving? One answer, not here. Let us address the skeptics. The main argument against alien viruses is Occam's razor. Why invoke space when Earth offers enough complexity? Viruses could have evolved here, from RNA, from plasmids, from escaped genes. Sure. But that does not explain the giant viruses. It does not explain the orphan genes. It does not explain why viruses have no universal common ancestor. All cellular life shares ribosomal RNA. You, a tree, a bacterium, we all have it. It traces back to Luca, the last universal common ancestor. Viruses have no such thing. They are polyphyletic. That means multiple origins. And multiple origins on one planet, with no intermediates, is harder to explain than a single origin elsewhere. Think of it like finding 5 different brands of smartphone in a cave, with no factories, no prototypes, no evolutionary path between them. You would assume they were dropped there. Giant viruses are the smartphones. There is also the issue of codons. DNA uses triplet codons to code for amino acids. The code is nearly universal across Earth life. A few minor variants exist, but overall it is the same. Viruses use the same code. That suggests they are from the same system as us. But there is a catch. The code is optimal. In 2017, researchers showed that the genetic code minimizes errors. Of 1 million possible random codes, ours is in the top 100 for error resistance. That could be natural selection. Or it could be the result of a long history of refinement elsewhere, before it arrived here. If you were seeding planets, you would use a robust code. So what happens if we prove it? In 2024, the James Webb Space Telescope detected dimethyl sulfide on exoplanet K2-18b. On Earth, that compound is only made by life. It is not proof, but it is a hint. We are finding more hints. Phosphine on Venus. Methane spikes on Mars. The universe might be full of biology. And if biology is common, viruses are common. They are simpler, hardier, and better at traveling. They might be the default. Planets with cells probably have viruses. Planets without cells might still have viruses, waiting for a host. Which reframes our place in the universe. We are not the center. We are not even the main character. We are hosts. And that is not necessarily bad. Viruses gave us the placenta. They gave us parts of our immune system. They drive evolution, clear out bacteria, and move genes. Without them, Earth would be a sterile rock or a mat of identical slime. But they also kill. Smallpox, influenza, HIV, COVID-19. They are the most successful entities on the planet, and they do not care about us. If they are alien, they are not aliens in the sci-fi sense. They are not here to invade. They are here because this is what they do. They copy. They spread. They adapt. The unsettling part is that we still do not know the rules. We can sequence a virus in a day. We can build one from mail-order DNA. But we cannot predict the next pandemic. We cannot explain why some viruses jump species and others do not. We cannot say where the first virus came from. Mimivirus was found by accident, in a lab looking for Legionella. Pandoravirus was found in sediment off Chile. Pithovirus was found in ice. How many more are out there? How many are in comets, in interstellar dust, in the plumes of Enceladus? NASA is planning to return samples from Mars. The Europa Clipper will look for life in the ice of Jupiter's moon. If we find a virus in those samples, a virus with no Earth relatives, the question is answered. Until then, we are left with probability. There are 10 to the 31st power viruses on Earth. That is 10 million times more than the number of stars in the observable universe. Each one is a tiny capsule of code. Each one is a hypothesis. Most will never infect you. Most will never do anything you notice. But some will. Some already have. You are reading this with a brain that was shaped by viral code. You are breathing with lungs that were cleared by bacteriophages. You are alive because, billions of years ago, a virus learned to merge cells instead of kill them. So are viruses alien? Maybe the question is backwards. Maybe we are the aliens. Maybe Earth was a lifeless rock until the viruses arrived, carrying the code for cells, for complexity, for you. Maybe we are the local expression of a process that started somewhere else, in a different star system, around a different sun. We look up at the night sky and ask where everybody is. Fermi's paradox. If the galaxy is full of life, why have we not seen it? But we have. We see it every time we get a cold. Every time we sequence a genome. Every time we find a new giant virus with genes from nowhere. The aliens are not landing in ships. They are already here. They are in the water, in the air, in our blood. They are ancient, adaptable, and utterly indifferent to us. And they might be the reason we exist at all. The next time you look through a microscope, remember Mimivirus. Remember that 90% of its genes are orphans. Remember that it was hiding in a water tower in England, and we had no idea. Then ask yourself, what else is hiding? Because the universe is big. And viruses are small. And space is not empty. It is full of code, drifting, waiting, ready to run. All it needs is a host.